Hi everyone, welcome to the show. My name is Amanda Ostrander. I am a teacher-turned-homeschool mom, and this is Raising A to Z, a place where we talk about all things homeschooling. And today, I'm going to walk you through how I plan out a whole month of homeschooling in one sitting. We're going to plan out a whole month of homeschooling. For some people, this is going to seem really overwhelming. It doesn't have to be. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. This is how I do it. You don't have to do it like this, but this is how I do it. And I think this is a little bit different than other people because I start with what my month looks like and ends with what we're doing. Whereas a lot of other people go the other way. They start with everything that they want to get done in a month and then they try to cram it into their schedule. I work the other way. So I'm going to show you how I do it. This I find gives me a nice balance of life and schoolwork when it comes to my kids. And I do find that because we have that kind of nice balance, we're not getting overwhelmed as often. So I'm going to show you how I do this. But first, we need to gather our supplies. So you want to get all of your stuff. You want to get all of your workbooks. You want to get all of your curriculum. You're going to want to get your unit studies. We're doing Indigenous people this month. You're going to want to get your planner. I'm using the Essential Homeschooling Planner, which is a planner that I designed to help homeschoolers make their lives a little bit easier. It has everything you need in here, from unit study planners to book list organizers to monthly spreads, weekly spreads, place to put all your passwords for all their login information. It's all in here. So this is what I'm going to use. I'll put a link to the Essential Homeschool Planner and all of its beautiful covers down below. But this is what I'm going to use. And then I'm also going to get some pens. I like colored pens. I find they just make things a little bit more easy to read visually. Basically how I do it, I have pink and I have orange. Pink is Alexi, orange is Zoe. It just helps me keep things kind of organized in my brain. So I have two colored pens. I have two colored highlighters. Those are their favorite colors, so it just makes it really easy. And I have a pencil. I'm using a mechanical pencil, but I like to use a pencil because things change, right? We need to be able to adapt. So what we're going to do, we're going to gather all of our supplies for all of our kids, all of our curriculum. We're going to find a place, we're going to sit down, and we're going to get to it. When I'm doing my homeschool planning, the first thing I do is look at my month. I'm going to my monthly spread and I am going to start putting in all of the things that we already have scheduled for the month. I'm going to put in our classes. I'm going to put in our appointments. I'm going to put in birthdays or anything that I already know is happening in that month. I'm putting it in my calendar right now. Why do I start with that? So a lot of people are like, that doesn't make sense. For me, it's because some days we don't have time to homeschool because my kids are off doing things. A great example would be Wednesdays. We don't have time on a Wednesday to do a full day because we have gymnastics, we go to Girl Guides, we have basically it's a full day of activities during our day. It's just too busy. So we just don't get to have a full day of sit down seat work. So I'm not going to plan a full day and then be disappointed when we don't get to it. So by putting in when I have big activities, or for example, another great example would be once a month Zoe goes to speech therapy, which means we are out of the house fairly early and I don't have time to do a whole day's work, or it's only work that I can physically bring with us while we're sitting at a Starbucks or something. So I'm not going to plan a whole, big hands-on unit activity for that day. So by seeing where I have time to do those activities and where I have time where I don't have time to do those activities, it gives me a better feel of what I can feasibly and realistically get done in a month. So I'm going to put in all of those things: appointments, co-ops, play groups, classes. All those things are all going into the calendar first. That's the first thing we're going to do. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go through your workbooks and you're going to decide what in your curriculum in general, all of your curriculum, and you're going to decide what is an everyday thing and what is not. So for us, everyday things are language and math. So whenever we sit down to do a workbook time, we're doing language and math. Not everyday things for us is the unit study. So I'm aiming to get that in 2-ish times a week. That's the goal. That's the plan. So based off of that kind of availability, I'm going to make a decision on which curriculums are going in on what days. So I'm going to go through my schedule, through my days, and decide which days are just everyday stuff and what things are going to be unit study stuff. And I like to shorthand it. I have LM, which is like language and math. And I have US, which I call as my unit studies. And then I also use MB, which is morning basket. So those are like kind of my 3 shorthands that I use. And then this year I'm also using JIB, which is jotted down, which is our writing activities. So that's kind of what we're doing. And I'm going to just like start by going through my month and kind of like just in the corner, writing down, is it an LM day, just language and math? Is it an LM US day? Is it a JIB day? Just so I can see where we're falling on the schedule. Then I'm going to go into my weekly spreads. So once I get into my weekly spreads, this is where I'm going to start putting in what is happening specifically on those days in terms of workbooks and pages. So I always like to do at the beginning, I like to put socialization. That's just like the line I put. And that's where I'm going to put things like classes, co-ops, all those things, because they are educational. I do like to mark them down because it does make me feel like we're doing something that day, even if it's not workbook related. It also helps me remind myself what's happening on those days. So I start with socialization and then I put in all of the activities that are happening on that week. The next one I like to do language and math, and then I do unit studies because I'm only teaching so many subjects at once. This is just how I'm doing it. So I'm going to do, I like to keep their subjects together. So math and math, language and language. So Alexi math, Zoe math, Alexi language, Zoe language. And then I have a box for unit study. And then I have a box for music, art, anything else that's happening. So there's 6 spots. You can do it how you want. I know some people who like to do all, if they have multiple subjects that they're doing at a time, they like to put all their kids in one box. This is just how I do it. You can do it your way. So then I'm going to go through and I'm going to start putting in, based off of my monthly spread where I have my little notations, I'm going to start putting in, okay, so Monday, we don't have anything because it's a holiday. Tuesday is going to be an LM and US day. So that means that we're doing language, and we're doing math, and then we're doing social studies at the bottom. Okay. So that's what we're doing. Then I'm going to move on to, okay, Wednesday, we're also doing language and math. And this week gymnastics hasn't started. So we're going to be doing unit studies that week. So we're going to kind of get a bonus day in there. Thursdays, this is what we're doing. And I go through, kind of going through the curriculum books that we have and start putting in specifically what pages we're going to be doing. And my goal is to kind of do 1 to 2 pages per workbook. So typically my kids have 2 language workbooks, and then 1 math. That's just the way our workbooks kind of fall together. So they're doing 1 to 2 pages of language and 1 to 2 pages of math. That's what we're aiming for. That's the goal. Sometimes it seems like a little bit more because it depends on like when there's like, I always look for like natural breaks in our curriculum. So sometimes you'll have curriculum where there's like a story or like an explaining part, an example, and then it's like 2 pages of practice. So technically it's 3 pages, but it's like 2 pages of work. That's just, I'm always just looking for a natural break. Sometimes, like for example, in one of our language books, it might make sense to do just 1 page because we're moving on to another unit or another topic the next day. It's just the way the curriculum falls, but I'm basically just like following in the order of the workbooks what comes next and just doing a section by section. Occasionally I do switch it up. Sometimes I do different things. Like I might do page 1 and page 3 and then do page 2 and page 4. It's just the way that happens. But basically that's what I'm doing. I'm just working my way through the workbook, doing a couple pages here. Every single time I see an L, that's when I'm putting 1 or 2 workbook pages. If I see an M, I'm putting 1 or 2 math workbook pages. Next, I'm going to move on to my unit study. So I'm going to go back to my month overview and I'm going to see how many times I have unit study kind of over in my overview. And basically that's going to be my breakdown for how much I'm going to be getting through my curriculum on a given day. Because it's not happening every single day, we do tend to do more unit studies at a time because it's not an every single day thing. But my kids like it because they're kind of doing something different. So we can kind of get away with it. You know what I mean? Like they're quite happy to sit there and like do these, like figure it out and read these things together and do the activities and the worksheets because it's something different than their math or their language. So if we can do that 2 or 3 times a week, bonus. So once I figured out how many times I can do that in a month, let's say I can do 11 unit study days or 12 unit study days. I'm then going to take my unit study and flip through it and break it down into 12 sections. That's what we're going to get through, is these 12 sections. And then I'm going to go through, moving into my unit study for the week, and I'm going to start putting in the pages that we're doing for each of those days when it comes to those 12 sections. So on Tuesday, we're doing pages 1 through 6, which is 3 pages of reading, a word search, and this activity, and then we're going to do this hands-on thing. That's what we're doing. Boom, it's done. Moving on to the next one on Wednesday. Oh, we have a bonus day on Wednesday. We're doing another day of unit study. So we're going to be doing pages like 7 through whatever, and that's going on that day. I find that this just gives me, my kids get to go really deep into it. We get to really enjoy the topic, but because it's not an everyday thing, it seems fresh and it seems new and it seems exciting to them, so they kind of enjoy doing it a bit more. It also means that I'm not overwhelming. And if I'm realizing like there's too much, I can start at this point, I can start kind of like, this is bonus. If we don't get to it, it's not a big deal. Sometimes books have like word searches or crossword puzzles or whatever. It's not a big deal if I don't do those. So those might be things that I kind of like put off and don't include, but they'd just be bonus if my kids really want to do them, they can do them. But I'm not going to like put them into our workbook time. So then I'm going to do my little sprinkling of extras. So I'm going to go through and add in anything that is above and beyond what my main subjects are. So for this year, we're doing some extra writing. We're doing Jot It Down by Brave Writer. I'm doing that on Fridays, basically. So Friday mornings, I'm adding that in. That's going to be a new thing that I add in on Fridays. We're doing part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. And I'm just going through and putting those in when I can. Yeah, we're just adding until we're happy with where things are at. Then, based off of this, if I have any hands-on units or hands-on activities that I want to do, I'm going to look through and see what days I actually have availability to do those. Because we don't want things to become so busy and so hectic that we don't have time to do anything or we don't have any downtime. So I'm going to find out what days I have some time. So typically a Friday morning is usually a good time for me to do an extra thing because I don't really do language and math on Fridays. That's just a personal thing. I save those for kind of like more of a hands-on activity day. And I'm going to put those into my schedule. So that means that we have different activities on different days. And I find this way I'm not overwhelming us. Our workbook times aren't growing and growing and growing as we're adding more and more activities because we want to respect our kids' attention spans and respect their time as well. So we're not going to give them too much. I'm spreading it out throughout the month, right? That's when I'm going to add in those like hands-on activities and any other specialty things. I'm going to add them where I see I have a little bit of space or a little bit of give. I find that works really well. And then the last thing that I'm going to do to get ready for my month is I'm going to set up my morning basket. I will do a video all about what is in my morning basket, but I'm going to take some time and get it set up or switch things over. So there are some things that stay in my basket kind of permanently. There are things like all my read alouds that I pull that are all about whatever our unit study that is that month. So I'm going to go through and pull a whole bunch of books and put them into my morning basket. That is going to be like, that's something I change every month. I put that in there and making sure that the basket is ready before the month starts so that when it's actually time to do it, I'm not like, oh, I don't have anything because that has happened. And that always makes for a really fun adventure. When you're like, I have nothing. I've got nothing. So, want to make sure my morning basket is ready and that's it. That's how you plan a whole month. I know some people might feel like that's like super overwhelming to plan a whole month. The reason I like a month as like a time unit line is because A, that's how long our units last in my family at this point with my kids. And B, I feel like a month is a pretty good range that if you get a little further ahead, it's not a huge deal to kind of adjust. But if you're a little bit behind, again, it's not a huge deal to adjust when it comes to your curriculum choices. If you're planning too far in advance and your kids need an extra 2 weeks on something, well, now your whole next couple of weeks are like all the way off and you're like, where am I again? I find that a month seems to be like a pretty good like gauge. And again, if you use a pencil and you need to adjust things, you can do that. That is how I plan a month. This is just what has been working for me for the last couple of years, and I hope that it gives you some ideas on how to plan a month so it works for you. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure that you subscribe and click the bell to get notifications when new videos come out, or you can become a YouTube member and then you get early access, you get bonus videos, you get chats with me, there's like cool badges and emojis and all kinds of things, so you can use all of those if you become a member. You can also make sure that you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. That way you can see how I take the book and the plan and put it into action. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.